All right, welcome to this episode of Shirley Talk. I'm Mike Mulroney.
I'm Kelly Duckworth.
Kelly, we do this every time. Are you an attorney?
No.
Doctor?
Nope.
Tax accountant?
No.
Just an accounting, finance professional in any
Definitely
way?
nothing finance
I don't
related.
even know what your college degree is. What is
Public health.
it? Okay. You have to remind me of that. And here you are working for a charity.
I know, right?
So we point that out because we are professionals of nothing. We feel like we're pretty good at raising money for charitable purposes. But if you hear us say something today, please get professional advice. So don't take our word for it. But we do have a professional here today.
Yes.
Miss Jude Wolford. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
And, it's great to have you here because we were talking quite a bit before we started about how things are going in the city. You know, there's a lot of things going on. And we've had some of our Shirley's Way equipment hit recently, different things going on. And oddly enough, Khalil next door had his food trailer stole again this weekend. It's twice. Our wonderful LMPD tracked it down the first time a couple months ago. And it's gone again. So it's kind of interesting how things are going on in this city.
That's terrible. I've been a lawyer for over 30 years.
That was my question. Do you have to? So you're running for judge. Let's start
I'm running for District Court Judge, Division 15, which, let's just get it out of the way. It's on the back of the ballot. You got to flip the ballot over, and my race is right in the middle of the page. It's a little confusing when you look at the ballot, and they're a little bit different as you go around town. If you have, your Metro Council person is up, or somebody for House of Representatives or State Senate, those will be included, and they have districts. Judicial races are county-wide, nonpartisan races. And this year, every judge in Jefferson County is up for re-election. So,
which is good.
Yeah. But it's confusing when you look at the ballot because even if you don't have an opponent, if an incumbent judge, a sitting judge, does not have an opponent, they're still on the ballot.
You can't put a big X over them and say no or something.
You can't say no, but people can do a write-in.
Okay.
So that's why everyone is listed. Like maybe, you really don't like a certain judge and you're trying to get a lot of people to write in Mike Mulroney for judge and whatever.
Put me in it, Judge. I would fix things quickly. But, it's funny you say that because we were talking about this at the beginning. Everybody kind of knows who's running for mayor. Everybody in your area, who's running for Metro. But I'm guilty of this. Most people don't pay attention to the judges, and I think that's why we're in the situation we're in right now because I don't think anybody realized the impact that a judge has because you're supposed to be nonpartisan.
Yes.
But again, Kelly, I don't know about you, but going to the polls, I never know which judge to pick. So if I see a sign on the side of the road, a lot of times that's the one I'll pick because it's closest to the polls. And I find out judges, they're all there to do the law. Do you ever keep up with the judges at all?
No.
No, I didn't either.
I don't.
Do you even vote?
I do.
Are you old enough to vote?
I do vote. Voting is very important. I
Thank
told
you,
Drew,
yes.
if Drew doesn't vote, he's not allowed to live in the house
He's
anymore.
going to this year.
Yeah, because I'm like, you don't get to voice your opinion. I
Right.
think if you don't vote.
And I really think a judge, depending on what's going on in your life, a judge could have a greater impact in your personal life than the mayor is going to, than your representative in Frankfurt is going to.
But most people don't realize that.
Well, the system that we have in Kentucky makes it impossible almost for you to find out anything about judges. And I used to think.
Is there a reason for that?
Well, we're in a nonpartisan race, and that's because the thinking behind it is that they want every defendant or every person who gets in front of a judge in court to feel like they are going to have a fair shot.
And that's the way it should be.
It is, that the judge should be impartial and unbiased and look at this case because every case is unique. Every set of facts is unique. Everyone's background is unique. Everything that's affected what's going on in that case is a little bit different from everything else.
Do judges have a term set limit or anything?
Yeah, district courts are a 4-year term and circuit is 8.
Okay.
So this is one of those years when circuit and district are up at the same time. So
Okay.
there are tons of judges.
Gotcha.
Say how many years again?
4 years for district, 8 years for circuit, and family is part of circuit court.
Okay, so you couldn't have the same judge in there for 20, 30 years.
No, you'll get a chance in 4
You know,
years.
I haven't paid any attention to this until some of our equipment at Shirley's Way's been hit. We've had some ridiculous things happen to the stuff that just sits in the parking lot, and people are like, you shouldn't just set it in a parking lot. Why not? nobody should do anything wrong anyway.
Exactly.
So
Wow.
at some point, it gets ridiculous. But I've been sharing some just different judges on my page because I'm sick and tired of it. It's
Right.
just ridiculous. It's sad when I can't trust that my wife or Kelly, she was almost attacked one time in a Kroger.
Oh my
and
gosh.
and it's ridiculous, but I can't even feel safe with my kids or my wife going to the store anymore, especially at night.
Yeah.
And what are we supposed to do as citizens? Because I'm scared that's what's going to happen is people are going to start retaliating, and we're starting to see that across the country in different things. But it's just it's gotten out of control, and I think most people don't realize, like you said, that judges have such an impact. When I started sharing judges on my page, people immediately start saying, well, don't vote for this judge because my girlfriend was beat up and the guy let him out of jail and he's out and she's scared to death to even go anywhere. So we're to the point where people are even scared sometimes to walk out their door.
Right. One thing that, well, first of all, I was most recently in my career, I've been a prosecutor for the county attorney's office working in district court. Everywhere I go, I say this little spiel about when you work as a prosecutor, you're assigned to a courtroom. It's part of a little team of 2 or 3 prosecutors. The same group of public defenders will come through. You get to know a lot of the defense attorneys. I have handled thousands and thousands of district court cases, and that is not an exaggeration. I have perhaps handled tens of thousands of district court cases. It's a very busy place. And so I think it's so important. That was one of the reasons for me to decide to run at this stage of my life. I'm 58 years old. I'm not going to be around long enough to get
Never
judicial retirement. Well, I
never
hope
know.
I'm not working for the next 20 years. But
You look young to me. I would have never
thank
guessed
you.
that.
But it's just, I want to take my experience, and I've done other things. I've done civil defense. I've worked in family court. I've worked in circuit court. I've worked in federal court. But that district court experience is so important because it is such a busy place. I think it's so important to have somebody that has a feel for what's happening in these cases, what the underlying reasons may be. I think it's very important to look at an individual's criminal history and to try to see what's going on with them. Is this a person who could perhaps be helped with, drug treatment court, mental health court, the county attorney's office is trying to start a homeless, houseless court,
Good.
veterans treatment court. And, those things aren't mutually exclusive. Somebody who has an addiction problem may have mental health issues as well, maybe a veteran as well, maybe living on the streets. But we've got to get to the bottom of the problems. What's causing these people to steal all these things? Is it gang related? Is it a juvenile? I mean, we've got to get people on the bench who have a good feel for this, so we can. The crime level in our city has just. I feel like this is not the city I grew up in. I've lived here all my life. I don't recognize Louisville sometimes.
Kids can't, my kids, they play, my son plays video games, and my girls don't even go out, they watch movies. But, when we grew up, and Kelly maybe I don't know, you're much younger than me, but we would leave all day long and never come back. We go play in the woods, but now, the last time I went in the woods, there was homeless camps. You didn't feel comfortable because there's needles everywhere. And I'm all for giving people second chances. I really am. And there's people that can be rehabbed. There's drug people that they want to get off drugs. There's people that commit crimes, I believe, that don't want to do this anymore.
Right.
But just putting them back out in society on a regular basis is doing nothing but making it unsafe for the rest of us that try to do the same things. We did an event last weekend, and there was a person passed out in front of the store down here sleeping on the sidewalk.
Yeah.
We just let him be. Kelly comes into work yesterday to do a few things. There was a person completely laid out. She wasn't sure if he was dead or not, laying right in front of the door. And this person, she I don't know if you woke him up, but you said you gave him a few bucks.
We
And he went
unlocked the
into
door
Artie's
and he
to get
woke up.
some food. But it's just, you mentioned something about homelessness. We got to fix that too.
Yeah. And the problems are complex and deep-rooted. I mean, I'm not saying I have all the answers. I'm saying I do feel like with my experience, I can recognize perhaps a situation where somebody needs help and somebody who is not going to be accepting any help and just needs to be locked up, so that law-abiding, tax-paying citizens like you, business owners, people who are just trying to, live their life privately and peacefully, those people have rights too. And so I just think my experience will be really helpful with that.
I hope so. I have a really good friend that used to be pretty good, high up in the police force, and he told me once, he said, the number one government is to protect its citizens.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's true or not. I'd never heard that until he said that, and I never really thought about it because, government gets involved in a lot of things, and sometimes I think they get a little too involved in stuff, but if their number one priority is to protect its citizens, they're kind of failing right now across the country.
I think we've really got to, and this is getting into other areas from judges, but we've got to have more support for our police. We've got to pay them more. We've got to train them more. We need more of them overall. They're so overworked and underpaid and not supported. And they're the people, like we were talking earlier about, I can't imagine having a job or being related to a person who every time they go to work, there's a decent chance that they ain't coming home.
Yeah.
And they get a lot of power and authority in their position, but we need to pay them appropriately and support them appropriately, because they're the ones there. That's the thin blue line, and that's it.
Yeah, you in every profession, there's bad ones and there's good ones. And there's some bad cops, let's admit it. But the large majority of them are good people that want to actually protect and serve. And, they get put in situations where no matter what they do, it's wrong.
Right.
And that really puts them in a situation of, do I step in and do the right thing? Because I don't want to end, if I do, I could end up on a 6 o'clock news. But there's so many that are compassionate about their jobs. Yeah. I'm not saying that every criminal that comes up in front of the court should be thrown in jail. We need more rehab facilities. We need some juvenile detention centers. I've got some teacher friends that, when they go in, they might get bit, spit on, kicked. And granted, they're kids, but some of them are big enough to be grown adults.
Right.
But there's no place. I like military school myself. I've been saying for a long time, we need to set up some sort of military school detention center, because a lot of these kids do these things because they're not taught right from wrong.
Right. I think we definitely need a place to hold juveniles, because, even the biting, kicking, like you say, they're violent, but a lot of them have weapons and are truly dangerous and making ridiculously bad decisions. And just to say that they're released back to whatever situation they came from in their homes or however they're living, that got them there in the first place, that is not the answer.
Why did our youth detention center ever get closed down?
I think it was funding. It was bad. It was in terrible shape, and rather than fix it,
it's been
we
years
closed
now
it.
that it's been closed.
Yeah, everything comes down to money.
It kind of does. My
But
dad used to always say that.
But all the other places that we're putting our money into, and they couldn't do that.
Well, yeah, and I think people think that kids should never be detained, and most kids are good. They just need some guidance. But there's some, there's just some, just like adults, that they need some sort of rehab capabilities to get them back on track.
I just remember growing up, and I was like, don't get in trouble. Like, I remember that being a place that you didn't want to go to. Even school. Like, I didn't want to get in trouble at school because I was more scared of what I was going to go home to.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
Whereas now, like, I have teacher friends that they can't discipline because the parents are going to come at them. The parents don't get mad at the kids anymore for what they're doing.
Yeah.
So I don't know
I was the
what
same
is
way.
switched there. Yeah.
It was always worse at home than anything else. And I have 4 brothers, and my dad used to always tell them, if you get pulled over or you're stupid enough to
Don't
be
call
like
me.
running or something like that, he would say, like, you be so respectful of that officer. He is your judge, jury. He is God, he or she, that you don't use smart mouth. And now, you see things like somebody gets pulled over and the officer says, I need to see your driver's license and registration. They're like, why? No.
Yeah.
Argue.
Work with them.
Yeah.
Like, I can't imagine pulling somebody over and, do they just take a deep breath? before they
Before they
walk
walk
up and
up.
approach that car. They don't know what they're getting into.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, it's crazy.
Yeah, it's a very unsafe thing. So you're running for judge.
I am. District Court, Division 15.
So how, in your mind, would you see things changing if you were elected? What would be something that you would benefit the community by being in that position?
One of the reasons I'm running is because I want the safety of the community has got to be one of the things that's considered. I think as far as setting bail or anything, that it's set out by statute what you have to consider. You look at the charges, you look at the criminal history, you look at the likelihood that the person's going to come back to court.
Not a cookie cutter situation.
Right.
Yeah.
It's never
Individual
a cookie-cutter
cases. That's right.
situation.
Yep.
But
Everybody's
to me,
different.
if someone is violent, and that doesn't necessarily mean having a weapon, like we were talking about students who can be violent, someone who is incredibly mentally ill or addicted, they're not in control of what they're doing. I mean, it's just, so they're going to do whatever it takes to get that next fixed, or a mentally ill person who doesn't have medication or is not on their medication, they're just acting out of their minds. That's dangerous. But I do think, as a judge, I will advocate in Frankfurt. The cops are not equipped to fool with these kind of people. They don't know how to deal with them. We don't have any place to put them. The corrections officers in there, in the jail, that everyone's like, oh, do we need a new jail? Do we need to renovate the jail? Well, first of all, too, no one should die in jail while their case is pending. I mean, we've got to do something about that.
I've never been to jail, so I don't even know what it looks like.
It's a scary place.
Is it?
And now it's really overcrowded, and it's understaffed again. Like, it's just, the problems are just so multifaceted. It's crazy. But some people, if they're a danger to the community, then they need to be held, at least until they come down from their high, until their mental health can be stabilized, until they are no longer a danger.
Yeah.
And you can do that by, like, you don't hold someone indefinitely. Like, there are time parameters set out where they'll have to come back into court. But really, we need some place to put the mentally ill, the addicted, the homeless, besides jail, for the officers, for the individuals themselves, for the community.
Do the judges work together? You know, in the medical world, when my mom was sick with cancer, there was a group of doctors that met once a week and decided a best treatment plan. Do the judges get together once a week and say, all right, we got 500 people in jail. We need to clean the jail up a little bit. There's too many. Do y'all get together and look at a list and say, all right, this person isn't violent. Maybe they could be let go on home incarceration or something? I mean, how would you even fix that?
And the judges do have meetings, but I think that those decisions, it would be up to the defense attorney, the public defender, whoever, to advocate for that person and say.
Again, we're ignorant to the judicial world. That's why I'm asking.
No, it's a fascinating place, but there's a lot going on there.
It's very complex.
Yeah.
There's a lot of moving parts there.
Well, I mean, as far as jails, right now, I don't think we have a youth detention center anymore. I know that the mental health stuff, if you pick somebody up, they could danger themselves. They can sign themselves out after so many days. Does a judge have any power to kind of help keep those people in those places until they've kind of rehabbed a little bit, or do y'all have that power at all?
On the mental health thing, no. They'll go. That was incredibly frustrating. And I think in 7 years and all those thousands and thousands of cases, we would refer people. They go to U of L, Psychiatric Center, and for evaluation. And I don't think I had, and they will notify you, that we had Mike in, we evaluated him. It was, not determined that he's not a danger to himself or others, and he's been released.
Yeah.
And just to the street. So now you don't know where they are. You don't know how to get them back. But they never held one person, to my knowledge.
Wow. Do judges keep track of those people? Do you have a way, all right, I was in court recently because my daughter's car was hit, and I think the judge said, I'm going to follow up and make sure you're doing what you're supposed to be doing. Does that really happen, or did he just say that? If you let somebody out and you're hoping they start doing the right thing, do you kind of keep up with their life and where they're at? Do you get notification if they get arrested again? Or
if they're in one of the specialty courts, like drug treatment court or something, then there's a whole team. There's a tremendous amount of support.
That's good.
For people that get into that. But the defendant has to be agreeable. Like, they would plead to something, whatever this charge is, and it would be perhaps not the most serious charge because you want to guide them toward treatment. And it's a carrot and a stick. So it's like, okay, Mike, you pled guilty to, harassment. You pled guilty to disorderly conduct, assault, whatever the charge is. But, you say you were high as a kite on heroin. We're going to put you in mental health or drug treatment court. And you've pled guilty and your sentence is 180 days in jail. That's going to be suspended while you participate in drug treatment court. And we're going to give you a place to live, and we're going to give you drug counselors, and you got to pee in a bottle 3 times a day, and we're going to watch you really closely, and you're going to mess up because they almost always do. I can't imagine. I can't lose 10 pounds. I can't imagine trying to get off heroin. I can't wrap my brain around that.
And
but
how
you
many
mess
times
up.
do you do that? How many times do you keep sending the same person to that drug therapy?
They mess up, and then it's a weekend in jail or 3 days in jail. And then you start all over again. And you maybe this time they make it 6 weeks, 2 months, and they mess up. And then it's 10 days in jail.
Mm-hmm.
And then so they're maybe getting a little better, and the punishment's getting a little more severe, and they're getting clear-headed enough and getting a handle on their disease enough that they can push through. And also, just getting out. I'm sure you all have heard, around the healing place, a block away, well, that's where all the drug dealers are hanging out, so they cannot walk away.
Even in jail. I mean,
yeah.
my brother would get locked up, and he's like, you'd be surprised how many drugs come through jail.
Oh,
or even like a halfway house. He's like, oh, yeah, I got to leave there. Well, that's an excuse, but he'd say, oh, there's drugs coming through there. And I'm like, how?
Using the programs to try to get them into a better, with a better, or some kind of a support group, not people that are dragging them down, but people that are going to help build them up a little bit.
Yeah, I grew up in the butt whipping generation, and I remember when my dad got me one time, and I didn't want any more after that. I didn't do anything bad, but he was strict, and I feel like I turned out good. Then you start seeing the timeout generation where kids were just told to sit over there, and it's cruel and unusual punishment to make them even stand in a corner anymore, facing the wall, and I just feel like we've got a large group of people that really have never been disciplined.
Now we're in gentle parenting.
That's right. Is that what it's called?
No, Mike.
What's that?
No.
Oh, use your words. We're going to talk about it.
Can't even put them in timeout anymore?
No. Gentle parenting.
My dad would make me sit in the chair for
I didn't know
hours.
that. I've not heard that term.
That's my generation coming up.
Wow.
Yeah, that's an interesting.
But I think the general public has the feeling that what good does it do to call and report anything because a judge is going to let them out the next day?
Oh, I think you got to make
that's
the call.
general. Yeah, I know, but I just really so if somebody has had something done to them, what do? Obviously, they put in a police report. A detective, I guess, will call them, and at some point, that person ends up in front. But it just seems like more and more people. I think we were talking a little bit about Chicago. They just came out. Looks like they're going to pass cashless bail, and you can't use a list of offenses that somebody's done against them at that point in time. I mean, can you look if somebody's in front of a judge? Can the judge look and say, "Hey, this guy's got 5 pages of offenses"? A couple of years ago, there was a young lady killed head-on collision by a guy that had so many offenses, but he kept being let out. He kept being let out of jail. And it just feels like it's so unsafe. It's heart-wrenching.
Yeah. I think criminal history is huge. You've got to look at criminal history. And it's easy to get a state criminal history. There's a computer program called CourtNet that we would always use to look up an individual's criminal history. There's also something, I don't know what this stands for. It's like national, it's NCIC. But it's where you have to have special access. Judges have it. Prosecutors can apply for it. I had it. And you can look up someone's out-of-state criminal history where if you had time, I guess you should always look it up in an ideal situation. But anybody that's involved with drugs, the way drugs are flowing through states and stuff, I mean, you've got to find out what this person has on their criminal history from other states as well, just to know what you're dealing with.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's a nonviolent offense, a low-level misdemeanor, like a neighbor
stealing gas out of a truck that happens every other week,
just something stupid, like that. I did not believe this until I went to a panel about cashless bail. I went to a panel that was Tom Wine, the Commonwealth Attorney, Sadiqa Reynolds, Leo Smith in the Public Defender's Office, Michael Connell, the county attorney, Josephine Buckner as a district court judge, and Tom Wine and Michael Connell both referenced a very recent study that was done that shows that for low-level offenses where there's no history of violence, no history of mental illness, no drug addiction issues, that people can be released on their own recognizance, ROR'd, with no bail, and they come back at all. It's less than 1 percentage point apart from people who have, because even a $250 bail could be unreachable for some people. And then the things that it starts to affect, then it's really going to mess up their life to be in jail even more than what their crime has done. Because if they're in school and they're not going, they're going to lose their job.
They got to pay child support.
But yeah, exactly. I mean, this can really spiral to making things so much worse than better. But safety, safety, safety. If there's a history of violence, if there's a weapon involved, any kind of weapon, like we were talking about, a pipe, a knife, a gun.
Well, there's people downtown that got cut with a knife the other day. Everybody's on guns, but
cut with a knife. They got their throat slit.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
I don't watch the news much anymore because it disgusts me that the stories that they cover. But I just see stuff on social media that people put out there, and I didn't know what had happened. I just thought they kind of cut them, but they cut their throat. That's
Came
insane.
up behind. One guy is very seriously injured.
Yeah, I'd be curious how many offenses they've had previously.
Yeah, so would I.
Anytime anymore, the citizens on the other side just laugh and joke. Well, I just wonder how many things they've done to get to this point. Oh, look, they're out of jail again.
Right. So, I mean, even though I'm talking about, like, helping people with because I think there was the claw hammer incident outside the Brown Hotel. I think in the same 24-hour period, a guy I know if one of them was drugs and one of them was mental illness. I know the knife guy on 4th Street Live, I think, was coming down from some kind of crazy drugs, and the guy with the claw hammer who attacked a person walking down by the Brown Hotel.
I don't think I heard that one.
Oh, yeah. So even though I'm saying, like, let's help the people with drug problems and mental health problems, but they have clearly crossed over into the dangerous level. We can't just let these people get back on the streets.
Yeah, I'm all for rehabbing people. I really think people should have multiple chances. But again, if they're a danger to society, you got to do something else.
You do.
But it just seems like more and more people are being released, and it really makes the general citizens really down on the system because you just feel like there's no safety out there. And what's going to happen is now anybody can carry a gun. I don't even think you have to have it concealed in Kentucky anymore. I walked out of Walmart. I don't go to Walmart much, but I was in there at Walmart. My daughter needed some fake blood. This guy looked like Wyatt Earp. He walked in. He had the whole 6-shooter on his side. He looked like he was ready for a gunfight.
Oh, wow.
But that's where we're headed but then again, that puts that person at risk because if they defend themselves or their property, they could really be in trouble.
Yeah.
That irritated me because as soon as I turned 21, I went through the whole process. I took the class. I got my concealed carry license. I did everything right. And then literally like a year or two later, everyone can conceal now.
But you needed it for gun safety and learning how to handle
that's what I'm saying. I'm like,
shoot.
I'm all for the Second Amendment. I think if you want to carry, you should. But there's a lot that goes in with a gun. I mean,
cleaning it is scary.
Yeah, and I'm like, I don't think anybody should just be out here carrying a gun.
I agree.
Because, like, I have a couple friends that I wouldn't throw a rock at them because they'd probably shoot you, and they don't need a gun, you know?
Yeah.
So
We probably need some mental health check around guns. Yeah. And I'm all for concealed carry. It doesn't bother me, but the person has to be mentally stable before they're allowed to do that. But you were almost attacked in a store was it 2 years ago?
It was a couple years ago,
People were cornering you, and you just kind of felt it. You felt like they were kind of coming at you on both ends. And
that was a scenario. I don't ever want to hurt anybody, but, and that's in that situation, what do you do? And I had my gun on me.
Wow.
And I don't want to hurt anyone.
But you're in a situation, what if I pull it? What if they're not really doing it and I shoot somebody? I'll be up for murder. Mm-hmm. That's exactly right.
Yeah.
I don't know. There's a lot of scenarios out there that the general public just doesn't feel safe anymore.
Well, that's why we have to vote for experienced candidates on the bench.
So what do we look for?
That's
in
my
a judge?
question. I got a list from a trusted source, and I'm sharing it every day, and you're on it, by the way.
You're
on it, by the way. Yeah,
You're
that's right.
FOP endorsed.
I mean, is there a link somewhere to just determine who is going to be tough on crime and make sure people get – and it's not being – I personally want people to get the help they need. I'm tired of common criminals doing things over and over and over and being released into society. So
I
is
think
there
most
is a
people agree with you.
yeah? So is there a website somewhere you can go and kind of check the record of different judges or
No,
prosecutors?
there's
Nothing.
not.
I was hoping
That's
you'd say,
why-
yeah, go to this website,
I know.
but it doesn't exist.
And if this were, it's almost November, thank God. If this were January and I was just starting this campaign tour that we've been doing, I would say look at every candidate's website. And now I'm a disillusioned candidate that people put lies and exaggerations on their website. So you can't trust that either. But if you can find out their true experience without using the candidate as a source, it has been, I don't know what a better system is, but this one it just stinks. And there's the Judicial Conduct Commission, which applies to candidates, and they ask us all to sign an oath. An oath, like as a judge, that should mean something, that you will run a clean campaign and educate yourself about the rules and follow the rules. And everybody signs it, and they may as well blow their nose on it and throw it in the trash because they don't follow the rules.
Is part of the oath that you got to keep the community in mind? I mean, because
no, it really is just about campaign stuff, that you won't say lies about your opponent.
Yeah. But anybody else can say lies about the opponent.
Yeah,
so that's
or
where it starts.
it's just, we're supposed to file these finance reports whenever they tell us to with Frankfurt, and I ended up having a friend of ours, my husband's is a CPA, and we hired him because they're complicated. Other people just don't do it. There's a million rules, no teeth. Incredibly frustrating. Because I'm a rule follower, as a prosecutor, as somebody who's fighting for victims, fighting for safety, but trying to find truth and do justice. I don't want to, charge or lock up anybody that is innocent.
You said something perfect there. Lots of rules and no teeth.
Right.
There is no repercussions for kids that do bad things in schools. There's no repercussions for somebody that steals catalytic converters on every truck that's setting up and down Dixie Highway. There's no repercussions for people that damage others' property. I heard a sheriff the other day talking in Florida about you got a right to protect your property. Is that something in Kentucky that we have? I mean, if somebody is trying to steal your car, are you allowed to shoot them? I mean, I don't see. He made it sound in Florida like that's perfectly fine to do. Stand your ground. I've heard that before.
Stand your ground. It really applies to people coming into your house.
Okay.
But I think we can hold people accountable, and we used to have CIC, which was people would be held, detained, not technically jail. They could leave for their jobs, or they could leave to do. Remember the guys picking up trash on the side of the highways or something? The city looks like garbage except for Derby time.
Yeah, drive down Gene Snyder. It's horrible.
If people can't pay fines, or we don't want to have just putting people who can't pay fines in jail. We'll people can work things off in other ways and help in the community. There are a lot of ways we could get creative with that.
I like that a lot.
Yeah, I like that too.
Do we still have community service?
They did away with that a while back, and I don't know why. Probably because we didn't have the staff to implement it, because nobody wants to
When
work.
we first started Shirley's Way, we're heavily funded by gaming and raffles. That's our thing.
I love it.
I know, but we would get these people all the time. Hey, I got put in jail and I need to do community service. Oh, what did you do? Well, it was theft. So okay, we want you to come in and handle $10,000 in cash.
Yeah.
No thanks. You have to be
gosh.
careful with the community service hours and what they do.
Oh my gosh.
The long list of people that are the people that have long list of crimes need to be in jail, and there's people that need rehab, and we are all for rehab. But at some point, people become a menace to society,
Right.
And I don't know how, as a judge, you determine that. I guess it's kind of hit or miss.
That's why I think that the experience that I have is so important, because I think it's. I mean, I keep saying this. I think it's a feel. I can't say if X, Y, Z and ABC, then this. It's just even the way. Zoom court is not going away. The use of technology, it saves people so much time. You'd have to take a half a day from work,
Oh, yeah.
drive downtown, find a place to park, get in there, check in, wait for your case to get called, hope that all the other people, all the other pieces, is the officer there, is the defense attorney there, is the, when you went for your daughter's thing, you probably had to wait God knows how long.
Oh, yeah, a long time. They kept putting us off, and they changed the date. They changed the date like 3 times.
Yeah.
So I'd take off work, and then I'd get a call. Well, something happened, and they're extending it out till 2 weeks from now. I'm like, really? So it went on and on and on.
But Zoom has definite benefits and good
For
points.
sure.
But I think as a judge, if I win, I want to see a defendant at least some of the time. I want to see their mannerisms. I want to see, are they sitting there all fidgety? Are they, how are they sitting in their chair? How are they speaking? Are they sweating? Are they what's going on with this person? That I don't know. You can pick all of that up on Zoom.
Probably not.
And I don't even know what all that is going to tell me, but I think it's going to tell me something.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
You can almost, there's different ways to read people, different
Right.
ways they look and stuff like, if they look to the right or look to the left. There's
Yeah.
all kinds of studies on if they're telling the truth or not, depending on the direction they look with their eyes. I don't know any of that, but I've heard that before.
We had a training when Narcan was first coming out, and I did the training, but I never signed up to use it. The sheriffs are in all the courtrooms and all the hallways. They all knew how to do it. I'm like, I don't want to make anything worse, but I didn't know there was a thing called the float. Somebody that's high on heroin, because they'll see people all the time sitting in the courtroom nodding off. I'm like, are they just really tired? Are they what? But they would their arms would go up like this. If they were high, and they'd be asleep, and their arms are floating up, and they called it the float. I never knew that was a thing.
That's when they've been on drugs?
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
A way to recognize somebody that
Well,
needs
I
some
got
help.
my thoughts on Narcan, and I'm okay giving somebody, maybe you put a badge on them, says I've been hit once, I've been hit twice, I've been hit 3 times. At some point is enough, because, and this is a total different topic, but my thought is people are going bankrupt over cancer treatments, but yet we keep giving people Narcan for free over and over and over. It's
Yeah,
just
you're right.
disgusting. So, thanks for coming in.
Can I say one more thing before we wrap it
Well, I was
up?
going to say, give us your elevator speech and what you would like to say.
Elevator speech, we talked all about my experience, but I have received fantastic endorsements, and I'm so honored and happy about that. I've been endorsed by the biggest one, or I guess the one people pay the most attention to, is Citizens for Better Judges. And boy, I've never been vetted like Citizens for Better Judges.
They got a website?
I think they do.
I
yeah.
need to look that up.
Okay, yeah, you do.
Maybe they might have some good info on some judges to
do.
look for.
They sent out a multi-page front and back questionnaire that we filled out, and then you do an interview, and it's like an inquisition. Like you're sitting there by yourself, and there are about 30 or 40 attorneys in this big U shape. One of them has been assigned your case and did a deep dive, and it's just like, well, hey, when you worked there, did that involve this? What did you do? Why would this be helpful? What do you think about this? And so that person questions you for 7 minutes or so, and then they open up the floor to anything they want to ask you about anything.
Wow.
And I got that endorsement, and I was so happy about that.
Well, that's a good endorsement.
That's
We'll
a
get back
great
to that in a minute, but it's funny because these attorneys, you see them, and well, my client really didn't do that, and they lean into that stuff. It's kind of odd, and I guess I couldn't be attorney because I couldn't defend the slime ball. But it's just funny that some of these crooks, these attorneys, go out of their way to really extend what they think really happened. But I guess that's their job.
Yeah.
But anyway, you're being endorsed by Citizens for Better Judges, and what else?
I got fairness. I got LSURGE.
Oh, Chris Hartman.
Yeah. I got Louisville, LSURGE's Show Up for Racial Justice. I got 10 of the biggest labor unions that I got to give a shout out to plumbers and pipe fitters. They were the very first ones.
That's good.
Yeah.
That's a big
Eric
group.
Elsie, he's a great guy. And he didn't mess around either. He was just like, I don't know you from Adam.
So you got
Let's meet
unions
for
behind you,
coffee.
yeah.
I got yeah. So, and UAW, IBEW, Teamsters 89, Teamsters 783, GLCLC, Central Labor Council, police, teachers, they never agree on anything. So that was good. But I got building trades. There's 10 of them, and I was so honored and happy about that.
So your goal is to be fair.
Yes.
And get people the, I don't say treatment, but get them what they need, whether it be jail, rehab, homeless people. It just has to be fair across the board.
It has to be fair, but we have to hold people accountable.
I agree. All right. Well, thanks so much for coming in.
Thank you. This has been great.
Yeah, Jude Wolford. Look her up.
Mary Jude
Mary
on the
Jude on
ballot.
the
Mary
ballot.
Jude on the ballot. That's right. Look for Mary Jude on the
Flip
ballot.
that ballot over.
Yeah,
Middle of
and
the
do
back
your
page.
homework. Don't just like I'm guilty because nobody pays attention
It's
to the
hard.
judges because you have to in today's world.
You have to.
Because it,
Experience matters.
yeah, and
Real district court experience.
dealing with all kinds of different cases. I can't
All kinds of-
imagine the cases that you've dealt with.
I'm
It
just
was
curious
really
how many
fun.
you get in a day.
I mean, there were days when the docket would have 200 cases on it.
Oh my god! In like
You have to
8
get
hour
through them
day.
all?
Yeah, you got to get through them all.
Oh my lord!
But I mean, it's just, and some of them are just, what are we doing here? Like the judge has called it back in, like we were talking about earlier, like if the judge keeps tabs on something, or it's just a check-in. Somebody can come and show that they've been going to their AA meetings or their NA meetings or their whatever, so it's something that can be super quick and easy.
But still, that's a lot.
It's a lot.
I walked into court one time. I had some rental property, and I noticed the judge's name on the bench, and my renter just happened to be the same name. I thought, oh, what are the odds? And I walked in, and she stood up, and she said, Mr. Mulrooney, I apologize, but you're prosecuting my brother, and I cannot take this case.
Oh,
So she
no.
excused herself, and another judge came out for that particular case.
That's
I thought,
good.
what? Yeah, it was awesome. I was thankful that she did that.
Yeah.
There was no bias there, but
Yeah.
I don't remember her name.
What are the odds?
But yeah, it was crazy, and I thought, what are the odds? You got a deadbeat person that had an extension cord plugged into the neighbor's house for electricity and
Oh
was using
my
the bathroom in a
gosh.
5-gallon bucket, and his sister is a honorable judge.
Right.
on
Oh
the
my gosh.
bench.
Well, it probably goes back to like addiction and mental health. I mean,
Yeah.
it touches everybody's lives.
Yeah.
I know it's gotten mine.
Yeah.
So
Well, Mary Jude Wolford on
Wolford
the
for
ballot.
judge.
Look for it. Don't drive to the polls on election day and check the box next to the person that you saw the sign. Is there laws around how close they can put signs
Yeah.
around? It just hit me because the one that you see last is probably the one in your mind.
oh, don't let that happen.
Well, that's the point. It happens.
Yeah.
So don't look at the signs around the polling place. Do your research. I will personally share, and I know a friend of mine is sharing all the judges that he knows is going to be fair and start helping this community get back on track with things that's going on.
Yeah,
So
Citizens for Better Judges is probably the best one.
I'm going to try and find that website, and I'll post it under this link.
That'd be fantastic.
All right. Thanks for coming in.
Thanks, Mike.
See ya.
Great.